Theros Beyond Death has reintroduced the mechanic Devotion into Standard, and because of that we are able to take a much stronger stab at building mono-color decks. Let's talk about Mono Black Devotion featuring ya boy Gary, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, in Standard. Let's do it! Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. I am Joel. If this is your first video of ours that you're watching, we appreciate it. Thank you. If you want to stay up to the minute with the latest decks and strategy for Standard, Pioneer, Commander, Historic, Brawl, or you just want to see us open some booster packs, or you want to talk about MTG Finance news and specs, make sure you hit that subscribe button before you go. Let's talk about Mono Black Devotion. Here the deck is. I have had a hell of a time with this deck. The entire deck is built around mostly Grey Merchant of Asphodel. When he enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is equal to your devotion to black. You gain life lost this way. Huge swings, huge hits, and we have big ways that we can take advantage of this as a combo. My favorite of which is Nightmare Shepherd. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's 1/1 and it's a nightmare. So effectively, if we have Nightmare Shepherd on the board and we play Grey Merchant of Asphodel, all we have to do is figure out some way to kill Grey Merchant, a la Ayara's tap ability, sacrifice another creature, or Witch's Oven, sacrifice another creature, to get Nightmare Shepherd to trigger and to put another copy of Grey Merchant onto the battlefield in the exact same turn. We also have Bolas's Citadel. Bolas's Citadel, you can play cards off the top of your library without paying their mana cost. You pay life equal to their mana cost instead. So I've had a lot of games where I will just I'll play Bolas's Citadel and I'll just dig until I've almost killed myself trying to find a Grey Merchant, because a lot of times you'll be putting a lot of black mana symbols onto the battlefield. You'll get a huge devotion built up. Grey Merchant will hit for a lot. Hopefully you have a way to sack it with either Yara or Witch's Oven and get a double hit off of it and win the game that way. Also gaining back a lot of the life that you lost with Bolas's Citadel. We also have one of Command the Dreadhorde. I really like this as a one of in here because if we do have some Grey Merchants in the graveyard, we can return a bunch of them at once if possible, a bunch of other creatures at once if possible as well, to get a huge devotion built up. Again, just absolutely nuking their life total with Grey Merchant. The entire deck is built on the back of the Cauldron Witch's Oven Familiar. This is such a good way of stalling a game out. You can block with Cauldron Familiar, sack it, bring it back to the battlefield. You're gaining life, they're losing life, you're slowly bleeding your opponent over time. Yara acts like the same way, especially if you've got her on the battlefield with Cauldron Familiar combo going. You're just absolutely burning their life total down and you're gaining life while being able to block and stall until you can get off some kind of combo with Grey Merchant. Timer has been an absolute all-star in this deck because of that second ability. Exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards, you gain a life for each creature exiled this way. All of the graveyard strategy running around, this card cannot be understated. It turns off opponents' Cauldron Familiar combos. It turns off the Elementals, Uro, Kroxa, things like that. It just eliminates cards that, you know, they might want to exile from their graveyard, a la enchantments with some kind of black-white enchantment strategy. It just can't be understated. We actually do run 2 more in the sideboard in case we need to guarantee that we hit Timerette. We also have 3 Yarok's Finlurker. We run 4 at the 2-drop slot just because we do consistently want to curve out Cauldron Familiar into a 2-drop, into a 3-drop, into a Nightmare Shepherd, into Grey Merchant. Like, that is our absolute house of a turns 1 through 5 if you can hit it and keep everything to stick. Drag to the Underworld, that is a 3 of because it's a 2-cost destroy target creature. It's just huge in this deck. Midnight Reaper because of its interactions with the Cauldron combo and because we need to be drawing cards. We need to find our combo pieces so that we can just Nightmare Shepherd, Grey Merchant, sack Grey Merchant, hit the trigger again, just bow, hit it over and over again. Let's look at some gameplay and I'll show you how the deck works. Okay, let's get into some gameplay for the Mono Black deck. Looking at this opening hand, we didn't like the first one, so we mull it back and we kind of get another middling hand. We've got a 3, a 4, and a 5 CMC. Not what we want to do, but, you know, going down to 5, we choose against that. Maybe it was the right decision in that case, but we know we can go 3, 4, 5 as long as we don't let the board get too far away from us. So we see another 5 cost, which is, you know, we wanted to hopefully draw one of our one of our multiple 2-drops in the deck. We get a Yara out, and we see that we're playing against an adventure deck, and they're pumping us down. We've got to take 9 there. We're gonna play the Shepherd here, and at the very least we'll survive a swing here. We can block sack, but they Giant Killer are our only blocker, so we have to move on from that one. Looking at our sideboard, we're going to bring in the Disfigures because of the Edgewall Innkeepers. We're going to take out the Timerets and put in the Noxious Grasps to hopefully hit their Lovestruck Beast, and their Questing Beast actually. We're gonna go a little lower to the ground. We are gonna bring in the Timerets because they block well. We've got a bigger toughness on there, and we settle for that. We can take out the Command the Dread Horde here. You don't have to operate with it, and we see an awesome opening hand here. We're gonna get a double cat combo going, and as long as they didn't sideboard in any crazy sideboard hate against us, we're going to be set up really well here, because at the end of both of their turns we're going to be just clickety clicking to sacrifice our cat multiple times, and it turns out the opponent doesn't want to deal with that, so they go ahead and concede. So we're 1-1 at this point, and on the play, on the draw rather, like we'll be this time, we make a little bit of a change, but not too bad. We're pretty confident with this matchup as long as we can get some blockers. Double a Yara, double Witch's Cauldron, not what you want to see, but we do mull and see cat, and an Ayara, so we're set up here pretty well, especially when we see our 4-drop to go in between our Ayara and our Grey Merchant. That's just awesome to see. They exile the cat, we play a cat, that's fine. We need to be seeing lands here. We've got in our hand what we need to make this work. We need lands. We need to go land here, and we've got a pretty good thing going. Get Questing Beasted, and that's fine. We're not going to touch it. We get a land, so we can get Nightmare Shepherd on board. What we can do here is actually sacrifice a creature to guarantee, or at least try to help that we draw one more land. We see that they're going to kill the Shepherd, and that's fine, so we're going to Yara it for the card. We see the land that we needed, and so now we're online with Grey Merchants. We need a replication outlet maybe now, another demon, or just more Grey Merchants. At this point, if they don't do anything or stop us here, we actually have them, because they're at 7. They gain some life with the Hydroid Crisis, but we still think that we can hit this, because 8 for the Grey Merchant plus the Ayara trigger does it. We get to be on the play for the second game that I wanted to show you. We see an awesome opening hand, a 2-drop, our 3-drop, and a removal spell. We can roll on this. We can deal with this. We've got the Timeret in case we're playing against some kind of graveyard recursion strategy. We see a Breeding Pool. We played against an Adventure deck in the first matchup. Maybe this one's going to be the Ramp, maybe it's going to be another Adventures. Lots of Simic running around. We get our Yara out. We also have a Nightmare Shepherd on board. Ooh, and we see Bolas's Citadel, so now we are doing well. We're assuming they're not going to want to lose the Risen Reef, so we watch an Uro hit the battlefield, and that's fine. We've got Timeret in our back pocket, so we can, if that becomes a problem, we can nuke their graveyard before they even have a chance to get their Titan out. Cat in this situations, when you don't have an oven, becomes a good target for your Ayara. Yarox is also a great target for your Ayara ability when you have Nightmare Shepherd on the battlefield, because you get the ETB trigger again. Of course, that's what Nightmare Shepherd is good for. Lots of ramping here. We see a Finale of Devastation for 5, so they go get a Cavalier. We don't really care about Cavalier with this deck, because we've got Timeret that's going to block huge creatures, and we've got the cat. We can Ayara away the Yarok again, get the trigger here. They have to exile a card. We get to draw another card, and ooh, baby, we see Grey Merchant. This is a win right here. Yep, that's a game, because we play Grey Merchant, they lose the life, and we were even going to be able to do it again if that first Grey Merchant didn't do it, but I believe it hit for 12, plus the Ayara trigger, so 13 damage off a 5 mana spell if you're not playing against a deck that has a ton of board wipe. We don't like that first opening hand, not a lot to do. This is, we do have the Bolas's Citadel, but this deck is fairly low CMC. You just want to hit your curve. A lot of times maybe it is better to keep a higher land count hand. We've got the opponent down to 2 cards in hand already, which is pretty sweet. And we're going to be able to curve out nicely here as long as we can draw one more land, but a Yara helps us do that. We can sacrifice the Yaroks if we really want to, so that we can go and get another land. Now they're dumping stuff into the graveyard. We've got Uro. We need to prioritize making sure that that doesn't happen to us first. So we're going to go ahead, wake up Tymaret, get the Uros out of the graveyard. We're fine to take a turn to do that. We have their hand very, very low. We don't really care too much about a Hydroid Krasis because of the life gain capability of this deck. We can play a cat here. We've got the oven as well, so now we can start getting that combo going, and because Yara's on the battlefield, it hits for 2, sorry. With Tymaret, we're going to go ahead and just keep exiling their graveyard. Might as well empty it out, give them no shot at a Uro or anything like that. And the Simic deck keeps doing what the Simic deck does, which is do a lot of stuff. They can do a lot of stuff. This deck does stuff. It refills your hand with Hydroid Krasis. It plays the Cavaliers of Thorns. The Risen Reefs get to do a lot of triggers. In the meantime, we're going to cat combo just to stall. We've got Tymaret, so we're not, like I said, scared of Cavalier of Thorns. We can block that card infinitely. Also with Cauldron Familiar, we can block that card infinitely. We got a little lucky there. They growth spiraled in response so that they didn't have a card, but they drew a Finale of Devastation instead of a land, so they didn't get to play it, so we got to exile a Finale of Devastation, which was awesome. But they do draw Cavalier, and that's fine. At this point, all we're doing, we just need to draw cards, and we need to stall, and we need to either get a Bolus of Citadel, because we've got the mana to play it, or we need to get a Grey Merchant. This swing puts us back to 20. I mean, see, we're fine. We're just stalling, we're just waiting, we're holding them at bay while we make sure that we find exactly what we need. And so this is a good game right here, because we're going to get the trigger off a Grey Merchant, we're going to sack it, and do it again. So as you can see, you can have some absolutely explosive turns. You can come back from low life totals or absolute overwhelming board states just because of the amount of stall removal and life swing that this deck contains. You know what? Let me know if you're playing any Devotion decks in Standard right now. I'm really interested in looking into all these different variations. I know that Mono Black and Mono Blue have been two of the strongest ones out of the gate, and I'll tell you, this deck has just been a hell of a time. Really appreciate everybody watching. Like I said, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button if you liked the video, that would really help us out. If you want to support us further, we got a Patreon. The link is down in the description below. And if you want to hang out, Jake and I stream 2 nights a week, Tuesday and Thursday evenings over on Twitch. Appreciate you watching. We'll catch you later.